Welcome back to First Up. It is 25 minutes after 6 o'clock. Following announcements on our set earlier this week by Minister of Trade Industry and, of course, our Minister in the Ministry of Finance, the Honorable Vassan Barad, that Trinidad and Tobago is moving toward becoming the financial capital of the Caribbean. We decided to focus on money laundering and white-collar crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. And the issue of financial ethics, we have with us the chair and professor of the Finance, Economics and Accounting of the University of the Southern Caribbean. He is Dr. Raghavalu Ramella. I hope I pronounced that right. He has an MA, MBA, an MPhil, and a PhD in accounts and finance. Dr. Ramella, thank you for joining us this morning.
Welcome.
Let us define to start financial ethics. Could you define that for us?
Yes. If you see in business sense, and traditionally business, finance means procurement of funds. But if you see modern definition of finance, it is not only procurement of funds, but it is also efficient and effective utilization of funds. So, and the next term that we need to understand is ethics. What do you mean by ethics? Now, if you see ethics in general, is concerned with human behavior that is acceptable or right, or that is not acceptable or wrong, based on conventional morality. General ethics norms encompass truthfulness, honesty, integrity, respect for others, fairness, and justice. They relate to all aspects of life, including business and finance. So therefore, finance ethics is a subset of general ethics. Now, you may ask why we need these ethical norms, because these are essential for maintaining stability and harmony in individual lives as well as in corporate sectors, in companies. And also where people interact with one another, recognition of others' needs and aspirations, fairness, cooperative efforts to deal with common issues are, for example, aspects of social behavior that contribute to social stability. In the process of social evolution, we have developed not only an instinct to care for ourselves, but also conscience, to care for others. So therefore, I can say that financial ethics is nothing but dealing with procurement and effective utilization of funds in an honest way, in truthful way, in a fair way, and where we can have a fair interaction within the individual as well as in the organization.
In the real world, though, that is not always the case. We have some people acting ethically, conducting their business in an ethical manner, but more often than not, that does not happen, and then that leads to major disasters that affects every single person. Why is it that so many companies and the people working in them succumb to the temptation of acting unethically? What drives them to do that, to break those basic rules?
With my understanding is that there is what you call, there are various aspects to it, on a personal basis as well as on corporate basis. Now, very recently, I also read very interesting research that is conducted by one of the business consultant, and which was actually published. And in this research, he found out there are various motives, or he found out various reasons why people individually, they behave, unethically when it comes to financing. I want to just highlight some of this. He highlighted, he has given three reasons. One is the ethical aspect itself, the other one is trust aspect, the other one is personal aspect. Now let us examine the ethical aspect itself. The purpose within the assertion that ethical problems set the ground for recent, even if you see the financial crisis that we are facing today, the downturn of economy is one of the ethical issues that are faced today in companies as well as our individual lives. Here when we are talking about the crisis, the purpose is to discuss the crisis within its system factors within a cultural and social framework. Comprehend from this point of origin. Another attention-grabbing issue is that after the crisis, one has become a complaint about the symptoms of morally distorted economies. These issues, as I told you, are listed, in fact summarized in a following journal called Research Journal of International Studies. These are some of the reasons they have given why the corporate sectors or the individual act unethically when it comes dealing with finances, transactions in the economy.
As you're referring to that research, I remember coming across some research that that had been done on corporate senior management, including CEOs.
Yes.
And when they did psychometric testing on these people, they discovered that the majority of them either had psychopathic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies.
Yes.
And yes, they were very successful in what they were doing, but their personality was one that, you know, would have taken an, by any means necessary, I will have success, which would completely move any sort of morality or ethics out the door. These are the people we have running our corporations and making decisions about our financial systems and basically controlling our daily lives.
Yes.
Can we examine that for a bit?
Yes. That's the reason it's very important, because in order to avoid this kind of problems, first of all, you know, I feel that our mindset, you know, has to be changed. Many times what happen, people, in fact, what you have outlined, what you have said, I'm going to just, you know, put it in a simple terms, in a layman terms, where, you know, general, everybody can understand. I'm also say that it's because the greedy acts of investments towards maximum returns, on equity are criticized, basically. It's such greed acts, has become a kind of desire, a mental stimulation, in fact, and this stimulation has started to be treated by business managers, as you have already pointed out, and economy policies as a restrictive condition. In other words, we have no other option rather than, you know, going into this kind of what you call greedy acts of investments. And then there is what you call doctrine of shareholders' value. Now this has been exposed to criticisms. For example, people have started to be doubtful about the corporate management, you know, and also standards for good management in line with this doctrine. And the underlying cause of such situation is that the said standards has emerged as a main reason for untrade, what you call trade practices of large joint stock companies during the recent crisis.
Let's talk about the issue of going back to the basic definition of ethics.
Yes.
In terms of moral and ethical guidelines, in terms of a sense of justice, and the fact that people in various jurisdictions, in various physical jurisdictions and cultural jurisdictions, have different interpretations of what moral behavior is, what ethical behavior is. They have variances of what their value systems are. How do we come about a common ethical practice in the global financial context when you have so many different interpretations of value? Someone may say this is greedy, someone may say I'm being creative here, as opposed to the legality of something, as versus the legality of something. When you have a different interpretation of value and just and moral, as opposed to I'm breaking the law. Someone say I'm not breaking the law, I'm being creative.
Yes. Actually, the saddest part to that is that when we actually defined a particular, because ethics is something, you know, morality with the, or whether we are doing it right or wrong, it is individuality, you know, based on how we deal
subjective.
with it. Yes, it's a subjective. So in that case, what happened, every person has his own way of dealing with. So that's the reason today the economy and most of the, we have what you call international, you know, guidelines that set forth where we can use these guidelines in order to avoid this kind of, you know, the personal bias or what you call opinions that, you know, creeps in decision making. For example, we have also various what you call regulation bodies, as well as what you call legislations at a national level, at a institutional level, this kind of what you call guidelines or what you call legislation or regulations will help us in order to not to be biased, okay, in order to follow certain rules and regulations so that we will not fall trapped by our own individual interpretation or own self-seeking interest.
Well, let's take a pause, and we're going to
Yes.
take a break for a commercial and then come back and talk about those regulations and how strong they need to be
Yes.
in the evolving financial context around the world, where we've seen downturns and crashes, even in Trinidad and Tobago, that must really protect the public interest. We're talking to Dr. Ramella. He's a UST lecturer about the issue of white-collar crime and financial ethics. We'll come back with more after this break.
We're back here on First Up, the first stop in your busy morning, and we're keeping the spotlight on the issue of financial ethics. Still in with us is the chair and professor for the Finance, Economics and Accounting Department at USC, Dr. Raghavalu Ramella. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes, wonderful.
Okay. Just before we took the break, you started to outline the importance of having international best practices when it comes to applying ethics in the financial industry,
Yes.
and that there are principles as well as codes and acts that
Yes.
must be followed to make that happen.
Yes. As I have informed you earlier, because these are very, very important for smooth flow economic activity in the economy. So these guidelines or the regulations or legislation at a national level as well as at institutional level. Let's see at a national level, especially Trinidad and Tobago. These are some of the legislation and what you call regulations that put forth in order to have a control over unethical financial activities in the economy. For example, we have guidelines by central bank on combating money laundering and terrorist financing. There is also what you call Financial Intelligence Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, and anti-money laundering regulators and supervisory bodies. Especially it is consists of attorneys, group of attorneys who are governed by the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, a body established under the section of under Section 3 of the Nation Act 1986, and then we have what you call Proceeds of Proceeds of Crime Act POCA 2000, and also very important piece of regulation, that is actually the SEC of Trinidad, the Security Exchange Commission. Now, I want to just highlight a little bit the importance, because all the securities, debt securities and equity securities are monitored by the SEC of Trinidad and Tobago. If you see, one of the most important and powerful official regulatory agencies for the security industry in Trinidad and Tobago is the Securities and Exchange Commission. It is in charge of implementing federal securities laws. As such, it sets up rules and regulations for proper conduct of professionals operating within regulatory jurisdictions. Many professionals play a role within the security industry, among the most important of which are accountants, broker dealers, investment advisors, investment companies. Any improper or unethical conduct on the part of these professionals is of great concern to the SEC. and as a result, whose primary responsibility is to protect investors' interests and maintain the integrity of the security market. And there are host of other functions, okay, which I think we can go and read it.
In terms of that, as
Yes.
one of the instruments, the regulatory instruments that any country can have,
Yes.
how will you get past, and I'm going to use an example now, a global example that
Yes.
has come to the fore where financial ethics is being questioned on a daily basis. The US, there are many in the US who constantly accuse China of unethical economic activity,
Yes.
where they use financial tricks and mechanisms to keep their currency low, to keep a trade surplus going with the US.
Yes.
How do you regulate that sort of thing when one country has a different approach
Yeah.
to maintain its economic superiority over another country? And we're seeing the dominance of a country like China, and that in the context of the BRIC countries, Brazil, India, who are also growing, who also, as they grow economically, must evolve their economic regulatory frameworks. How do we look at those global situations?
Yes, it is a very good question that you have raised. If you see today we are into globalization, you know very well, and as a result what happen is that sometimes what happen as a global player, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, is part of the global as a result what happen is that sometimes there are certain things which are not within our control. But for example, whatever the laws or regulations that are related to other country, unless you have a bilateral agreement or adapting the same, because each country can have their own regulations and what you call legislation based on the economic activity, based on the cultural, the social aspect of that country. So what I can say is that I cannot say that we have a full control over the situation, because today most of the economies dominate because based on their economic activity, because if they are very good in manufacturing and economic, very strong in economic activities, they always have edge to dictate terms for the other countries or the economies to follow. For example, very recently we have USA, where superpower, most of whatever happens in USA economy, it will very well, it will spread to all the countries, basically because it has all the power and it has all the production facilities and activities. So what I can say is that for us, we may not have control over the other countries, but rather than we have to see what is our situation based on our activity, and accordingly, if it is the system which is followed or regulation followed in that country is suited for the development and the growth of the economy, it is always good for our economy to follow the same model.
So we have to see what's best for us.
Yes, best for us.
Dr. Ramella, do you believe that if there is a greater adherence to financial ethics and business ethics overall, that we would begin to see a major reduction in white-collar crime and of course, instances of money laundering and all of those attendant corruption vehicles? Do you think that that would happen, or is it because of the nature of the individuals who have to run these corporations, the kind of cutthroat nature
Yes.
of their work, that we will continue to have these problems, involving white-collar crimes and so on, and corruption and all of that?
Yes, it was because what happened, especially money laundering, right? Because that activity, if you see in, I have read quite a research articles, and a lot of work has been done, because in Trinidad and Tobago, one of the problems that are faced is money laundering. And it was very recently, I was also reading an article. I think very recently we had a seminar also.
Yes.
I think you all know that it was in IIT, we had a seminar. In that seminar also, they have pointed out this, what you call the money laundering activity, which actually plagued the nation, financial, the stability of the country is at stake because of this money laundering. Now, I want to just provide you certain statistics that are just highlighted by this seminar, especially by David West and other colleagues who are participated in that seminar. I just want to highlight few of this and what situation will be Trinidad and Tobago if these are not control, or if there are no regulations or steps or procedures that is set aside or put it in place,
to deal with it.
Yes.
We have just a minute left, so we could just go through them quickly.
Yes. According to his article, if you see, he talks about a developing country like Trinidad and Tobago, where financial institutions are exposed to money laundering, and which also pointed out by, as I told you, attorney and certified anti-money laundering specialist David West, just 2 days ago in a seminar organized by an anointed professional exhibiting excellence at IET. And the article published in Guardian Media noted that Trinidad and Tobago is at risk of being blacklisted by the International Financial Action Task Force, and if by 2014, if it continues to fail to prosecute anyone under anti-money laundering or combating the financing of terrorism laws, and further West said, come 2014, right, somebody is going to have to be charged. And he also explained that in 2010, I'll just highlight some of the points that it was written in the article, as well as what he said in the seminar, were 263 million worth of suspicious activity reports, which are called SARs. In 2011, there were 569 million worth of SARs. That's total of 832 million worth of SARs, and there has been no prosecution. However, the situation is even more alarming for the first half of 2012, where already over 500 million of SARs has been reported.
So to wrap it up quickly,
yes,
because we are out of time, we have the onus is on us to prosecute someone by 2014.
Yes.
Dr. Ramella, thank you very much. Certainly we'll have to continue this conversation. We haven't even touched on companies that are too big to fail,
yes,
yes,
and how they impact the local economy. We've been talking to Dr. Raghavalu Ramella, who is the chair of and professor of the Finance, Economics and Accounts faculty at the University of the Southern Caribbean. We're going to switch gears, back with more.